Hey guys, Level Cap here with my very first Aftermath footage. Now, of course, when I loaded up Aftermath, I had to try out the Scavenger game mode. I have played Conquest and Rush, and I really like those game modes, but today we're going to be talking about Scavenger, the new one. Now, in case you haven't tried out Scavenger yet, it's basically a conquest round, a smaller infantry-based conquest round, where everybody playing starts out with a pistol. You can choose whatever pistol that you want, and to pick up main weapons, you have to find them on the ground. They're usually located near flags or key objectives in the map. And unlike Gunmaster, the guns actually make sense. You pick up a lot of stuff with laser pointers, suppressors, interesting sights on them. Not a lot of shotguns with explosive rounds. You do get a lot of shotguns with laser pointers on them, and buckshot. So basically all the guns you pick up you can actually work with. You can actually shoot and kill people with. There aren't troll weapons in there or something that just makes no sense whatsoever. No shotguns with 8x scopes or anything like that. So in regards to the kind of weapons that are laying around, they're actually all really good, really fun to play with, and it's nice to be running around in a map where people are using a huge variety of weapons and you don't necessarily have to worry about people gunning you down long range with their favorite assault rifle or their favorite sniper rifle. Now here's a tip for doing well on these maps. Get good with the Magnum or the Rex. You need something that can dish out a lot of power at medium to longer range, because if you can't pick up one of those good primary weapons, or maybe your primary weapon is a shotgun and you need to go down a long range alley, you're going to need something that can kill at range, and the Magnum and the Rex is something that can do that. Now the primary weapons that you do pick up don't come with a lot of ammo. 2 magazines and that's it for a carbine or assault rifle. Not a lot for a shotgun, and you get 1 box mag for any machine gun that you pick up. So basically you can do a little bit of work with it, but after you've gotten a few kills you're going to realize that you have to drop it for something better. It's not always good to run around with a primary weapon for an assault rifle that only has 5 bullets in a magazine. You may as well run around with your pistol instead and go and try and pick up something else. Now, because you're not going to be using your favorite assault rifles the whole time, and your opponents won't be using their favorite guns the whole time, you can actually be much more aggressive. People are using weapons that they're unfamiliar with, or guns that just aren't quite as good as they're used to, or maybe they have a shotgun. So you can be much quicker, much more aggressive. You don't necessarily have to play the slow gameplay the whole time. In fact, you really want to get around there and cap flags as fast as possible. It has the same capture time as Conquest assault maps from close quarters, meaning that you can cap flags on your own very quickly. You'll notice this in a lot of maps is people just run around, capture flags, and move on to the next. There isn't a lot of defending going on, just because there's enough flags out there to create enough diversity, and nobody really wants to hang around a flag for too long, just because it can get a little boring, and the way that you find action is going towards the blinking flags. Now, I don't know if a defensive playstyle would actually be that effective in these maps. If you've got 5 flags and not a huge server, it almost doesn't make sense to defend. It makes a little more sense to attack, try and kill your opponent, and then take his flag. If you can do that, you're going to be in an extreme advantage. If you defend a flag, then you're still going to be forced into a one-on-one gunfight, and if you lose it, then your enemy takes your flag. So it seems to really promote aggressive gameplay and less defensive gameplay. Now, as far as the map design goes, the maps themselves are absolutely beautiful. In fact, the Conquest maps on Conquest Large are just gorgeous. They're absolutely huge, and they have a lot of really cool spots that you can have really long range firefights. So snipers are really going to enjoy that. But I'll save my review of the whole thing for a later date when I've had more time to experiment with Conquest. As for the Scavenger mode maps, they are definitely smaller than the Conquest size maps, but they're still really cool and fun to run around in. Most of them are sort of a boxy layout with flags scattered around the edges and a few in the center. Really, if you want to run around and stay as safe as possible, it seems to make more sense to try and stay on the outside of the map. And you can risk pushing into the inside of the map, except that you end up getting exposed from all angles, and it gets a little bit more dangerous on certain maps. Now, unlike tank superiority, you are allowed to spawn on your squad mates, so that allows for a little bit extra teamwork going around. You can team up with some of your buddies and go around in troves, especially considering that a lot of your enemies have pistols. Numbers really helps in this game. Not a lot of people are going to be running around with assault rifles gunning down 3 people at a time. When you've got a pistol, it's going to take a little while to take down a group of people. So moving together with friends actually is really important in this. And something that's important to actually take into account is sometimes it's really fun just going for every gun and picking up a new gun, even if you already have a good gun. But if you got buddies running around with you, it's a good idea to try and let them get some of the good guns as well. If you have a good shotgun and you see a good assault rifle there, why don't you let one of your buddies pick it up already? Because if you drop your weapon, they're not going to be able to pick it up. So you can end up turning into a situation where one player just keeps picking up all the good guns and everybody else just keeps running with their pistols. Now, Battlefield 3 has always been known for involving a lot of strategic gunplay and gameplay into their franchise. And how does Scavenger stack up for the strategic element? Well, people said close quarters wasn't very strategic, although I found ways to make it strategic. There's only 3 flags in close quarters, so it actually made a lot of sense to group up with some friends and defend a flag. If you could defend one flag with 4 people while the rest of your team pushed for one of those other flags, then that actually was really beneficial. It was some good strategy you could pull out in close quarters. Not as good as the general conquest game modes. But in Scavenger, there's 5 different flags, so it really doesn't pay off to have a group of people defend a flag. Maybe 1 or 2 people maximum defending a flag, but even so, it feels more like their efforts could be better spent assaulting new flags. Overall, it really does feel a bit more like a team deathmatch with flags to sort of group people together in certain areas for firefights. There wasn't really any situations in a map where you can look at the map and kind of get a general overview of what your team is doing wrong and where you might need to push out to better conquer the map. There's no risky maneuvers that you can pull that are somehow going to capture a flag and win the game for your team. It just seems to be run around, shoot your opponents, and try and capture flags in a really chaotic fashion. I mean, I'm sure if you really spent a lot of time with it, you could come up with some very advanced strategies for how to appropriately break up squads and how to appropriately attack flags and what routes and stuff to take. But in any sort of public game, there really just isn't going to be any sort of semblance of strategy, which you definitely find in games of Rush or Conquest, even if it is a public match. Do I think this makes Scavenger a bad game mode? No, I don't, because there's plenty of strategy to be had in Conquest and Rush, and Scavenger is just sort of a fun little game mode that forces people into a situation where they're not really going to be using their favorite guns. Or they're going to have to be very good with a huge variety of weapons in order to be successful. Ultimately, though, I think they could have just taken the flags out and it would have been just as fun. Maybe make the maps a little bit smaller. That way you can get a little bit more team deathmatch style gameplay going with the benefits of the Scavenger gunplay. So that's it for my review on the Scavenger mode in Aftermath. Stay tuned for my ultimate review. I'm going to spend a bit more time with the game before I conclude my thoughts on that. And there will be an Expo review coming out soon as well. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.